Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Richmond Art Gallery's panel discussion, Documentary as Social Practice, featuring our curator, Zoë Chan, and artists Kirsten Leenaars and Marie-Kristine Petiquay from Wapikoni Mobile. Today's session features two of the artists in our current group exhibition, Let the Real World In, which is on at the Richmond Art Gallery from January 20th to March 31st, 2024. My name is Kathy Tykolis. I'm the Richmond Art Gallery's Education and Public Programs Coordinator, and I will be here to introduce our program today and to help moderate your questions. First, on behalf of the Richmond Art Gallery Association, I would like to welcome you to this program hosted by the Richmond Art Gallery that is located on the traditional and ancestral lands of the Hunkaminam-speaking peoples, which are the nations that lived along the Fraser River Delta, including the Musqueam. And I would like to thank you all out there for joining us today from wherever you are zooming in from and supporting the Richmond Art Gallery's programs. The format for today's session, I will let Zoë Chan, the gallery curator, first tell you a bit about the exhibition, Let the Real World In. And then she will introduce each of our artists who will do a short visual presentation on their work, just so you can get to know them a little bit better. And after their presentation, we'll start off with some questions, and we will then open up the questions that you have sent to us, and I will help moderate those questions and come back for that part. So Zoe, I will let you take it away while I go and moderate the chat for everyone.
Yes, thank you to everyone who's here here today. Just a few words before I delve into the presentation. The group, or the discussion, sorry. The group exhibition, Let the Real World In, continues a series of exhibitions that I've done in the past few years that look at contemporary video practices with a particular focus on documentary, videos that are either inspired or responding to the history of documentary, and whose concerns often intersect with that of representation and identity. And watching a documentary on the recently deceased film director Jean-Luc Godard, titled Godard par Godard, a couple of things stood out to me, in some ways very simple, but profound nonetheless. Basically, he said that he takes stuff from real life to make films, and that every film he thought should bear witness to the period or to the era. Obviously, his words intersect well with documentary practices, but yet the scope is quite vast, and I knew that I would need to maybe focus in, narrow in a bit. So I decided to focus on artists or works who center on children or youth, and foreground their experiences, their perspectives, and their voices. I thought it was interesting to look at these groups in particular, just because often we're trying to, we want to protect children and youth from reality, or especially harsh realities, which obviously is not a luxury everyone has in times of war, economic inequality, and so on. So I'm looking forward to this discussion, where we'll have a chance to speak with Kirsten Leenaars and Marie-Kristine, who's a spokesperson here today from Wapikoni Mobile. I don't have the time to do a thorough description of the exhibition and its featured works, so I mean, I think Kirsten will be able to speak to her project, and Marie-Kristine will be able to speak in general as to the work of Wapikoni Mobile. So maybe I'll start with I'll start by just briefly presenting Kirsten Leenaars today before I turn it over to her. I just am going to say just a few words about her practice and her career. So Kirsten is an interdisciplinary video artist based in Chicago. Various forms of performance, theater, and documentary strategies make up the threads that run through her work. She has shown internationally at venues including the Museo Universitario del Chopo, Mexico City, the Haggerty Museum of Art in Milwaukee, the Museum of Contemporary Art, Chicago, Printed Matter in New York, the Witte de With Center for Contemporary Art in Rotterdam, and Künstlerhaus Bethanien in Berlin. She currently is a professor in the Department of Contemporary Practices at the School of the Art Institute of Chicago. Kirsten and I first worked together on the exhibition The I and the We that was presented at the May Gallery in Montreal in 2019. So it's a pleasure to work with her again and to show her work at the Richmond Art Gallery. So now I'll turn it over to Kirsten. Kirsten will present briefly on the project that she's presenting in Let the Real World In, and a bit about her practice in general. And then I'll introduce Marie-Kristine. So over to you, Kirsten. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you want to stop your...
Yes, and I completely forgot to show my slides. I'll just quickly show
Yeah.
So these are some images of the exhibition, just an installation view. We can see Kirsten's, there's a poster work in the background. There's a 3-channel video to your right, and a work, an interview work that is directly on the wall of posters. This is a bit more of a close-up here. And then these are a couple of works that we're really happy to be presenting that were produced by Wapikoni Mobile here. So these are 2 of the works. There, I didn't have an image of hunting lessons that just came out in 2023, but that's another project that was produced by them that is also in the exhibition. Okay, so I'll turn it over to Kirsten now.
Thank you, Zoe. Great. I am also very excited to be working with you again, and really an honor to be part of this show.
Thank you.
I will share my screen. So first, a little bit general, my interest in documentary photography, and documentary video film. I always had an interest in documentary photography, and I think growing up, there were press photo books around, and my dad took a lot of pictures. He was an amateur photographer. And so for me, photography, I guess, also became my gateway to thinking about the power of images and storytelling through images, and also kind of my gateway through art. And once I was at art school, I started to really think more about this relationship of the person behind and in front of the camera, and politics of representation. And that's when I really started to think about what my approach was with these questions, and that I wanted that to be a collaborative process between me, the person behind the camera, and the people that were in front of my camera. You're looking here, by the way, at a picture of by Ed van der Elske, Dutch documentary photographer, and this is kind of one of my favorites of him. I think it kind of captures something so beautiful with these simple cardboard shapes and these kids that for me have a lot to do with the kind of imagination that I'm also looking for in my own work. So since grad school, I really all the video work that I made is through a collaborative process, and that is really to kind of discuss and negotiate and navigate these kind of politics around representation. And I want my subjects to partake in their own representation and frame their own questions and stories through collaborative making and discussing different issues that are and concerns that are on their mind together, and that leading to the kinds of videos that we make. I'm going to show you a clip now that is partially some clips from a short documentary that my camera woman, Ellie Hall, made throughout the years. So Rehousing the American Dream is a 4-year documentary project that I did in Milwaukee for the Haggerty Museum that started as a 1-year project. Ellie Hall was one of my camera people for those 4 years, and she made kind of a mini documentary about kind of behind the scenes. So these are some excerpts from behind the scenes, the making of the work, and some clips that I put in there as well of the work we did throughout the years, both kind of straightforward interviews with the kids that are part of the project. So it was the same group, but I'll talk a little bit more about that later, the same group of participants for the whole duration of the project. Yeah, you see kind of, which is also the basic structure of the work. There's some more performative work, performative actions in public space, but then there's also around different issues, but then there's also more straightforward interview work that kind of, they inform each other. So I will play this clip for you.
I'm in general a pretty quiet person, but when I do want to speak up, I want to be heard.
Living in Milwaukee means, like, I wouldn't say, yeah, like my brother said, I wouldn't say it's like a bad place to live in, but it's an okay place to live in, because it's people getting, basically, it's like always somebody getting shot every day, and like every time you turn on the news in Milwaukee, it's somebody about, oh, somebody got shot, police brutality and stuff. It's always negative things instead of like positive things. Like the news probably would have come here and record all this because, I don't know, because they probably don't know about it. But I think living in Milwaukee is like, I don't know what it's like. I guess it's an okay place to live in.
Throughout my school year, I've seen a lot of stuff in my neighborhood and out of my neighborhood and in school, yeah. And I think it's really wrong because sometimes other people can't do anything like me. I can't do stuff in certain situations because of my age or it's too dangerous and stuff like that. Like where I used to live, it used to be a lot of police over there, and where that situation that happened by Sherman Park, I lived by that. And police would come in and out through my neighborhood because it would be because of our neighbors and stuff like that. They would be drunk all the time, and it would be a lot of shootings and stuff like that, which is very traumatizing, kind of, for some of the situations that happen.
Do you want a new house? Well, I got a house for you. It's the Potato Palooza. It has 4 bedrooms, 2 kitchens, 2 bathrooms, and just to let you know, Donald Trump never set foot in this house, so it's a Trump-free zone house. So never invite him to your house, ever.
I wish I will have my own home in Africa and America too, both of them. My parents moved to America to have more opportunity to go to school and more education. I just heard people saying that Donald Trump don't like refugee people. A lot of refugee people don't like it.
I feel like it's completely unacceptable in a way. You cannot make a wall over America. It's just like, You
can't
think
cage America.
Yeah, you can't just think about a commercial and it's just like the land of the free,
And then you see a huge wall.
This sentence, what the world will become, already exists in fragments and pieces, experiments and possibilities, I think is very indicative of kind of the process, the collaborative process that I use through kind of creative video work, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. Here's a little note from that first project in 2016. So in 2016, I was commissioned by the Haggerty Museum of Art in Milwaukee to create a video work, a community-based video work in light of the 2016 elections around the American dream and ideas of the American dream. And I initially thought I was going to work with adults, and I kind of reached out to different groups, community organizations, and I just didn't feel a click, which is very needed, is imperative for a good collaborative process. So I had to kind of rethink who I wanted to work with, and then I was thinking more about the elections, people who have a stake in it, or people that don't really have a voice. And I thought about youth and kids who obviously cannot vote, but consequences of the outcome of the election would definitely affect their lives. So I reached out to 2 middle schools in Milwaukee, one with a special program for newcomers, to see if they were interested in working with me on this project for the museum. And I worked with one school, I worked with an English teacher, and the other school I worked with the art teacher and 2 specific classes. Initially, I worked with the kids during school time. And then while we were kind of talking about the American dream and ideas of the American dream and elections, I realized that in order to make the video work, we really needed, first of all, I wanted to bring the 2 groups of kids together, but I also realized we needed like a focused, longer period of time to create the actual video work. So I proposed to the curator, Emilia Leyden, at that time to structure the video shoot as a 3-week free summer camp for the kids, in which we would develop the work together. And it was a one big experiment for all of us. The museum had never done anything like that. I had never done anything like that, never been to camp either. So yeah, it was just one big experiment, creating this video work together that in the end was shown at the museum. And so during the 3 weeks, we talked about ideas of the American dream, reimagining the American dream, what it meant to these kids, what the elections meant to them, what kind of world they would like to see. And this is one of the notes one of the kids wrote. Here is a group portrait of pretty much all the participants. So as I said, it started as a 1-year project in 2016, and it developed into a multi-year project. The last time we shot was in 2020 during the pandemic with the same group. So one of the things we talked about in that first iteration of rehousing the American dream was, of course, the idea of the white picket fence and owning your own house. So the kids build miniature mini houses to talk about these ideas. And they loved making so much that I thought, I think we need to amp this up and go bigger. And so we went from miniature houses to bigger sized cardboard houses here, built on an empty parking lot in the middle of the neighborhood that we were working in. And I love these kind of performative actions in public space because obviously those are documented, but for me, it's also very much literally about creating images together. This cardboard structure also becomes an image that holds a story, etc. And these kind of performative actions also, I think, allow the participants, in this case, kids, to express their ideas in different ways that is not always verbal, but also visually or through their bodies, which I think is really important too. They rewrote the Constitution in this iteration in hashtags. They organized a protest against Trump. Play is an important part in my projects too. I think this space of creating together, of making together, of discussing sometimes really deeply personal stories becomes so much, I don't want to use easier, but I think when you kind of build this environment of where play is allowed and joy is allowed, it becomes much easier to find connection with each other and to feel that you're in a safe space and you want to open up and share it with each other and find that connection. And so this is an image of the final presentation at the Haggerty Museum of Art, a 3-channel video piece, very similar to the way it's set up at the Richmond Art Gallery for the 2017 Message from the Future iteration. So while the exhibition was up, the elections happened, and something that we did not think could actually happen during that summer when we were making this project, Trump did get elected as the president, and the kids were pretty devastated. So we also realized that we couldn't stop the discussions there, and the kids really asked, like, can we continue this project? We want to keep talking together about these things that are affecting our lives. And that's how Rehousing the American Dream, a Message to the Future came to be the next version of this project. And this was one of the questions I thought was very pertinent. One of the participants asked when we were thinking about the future, how can we know how that what we imagine the future to be is our own imagination? And I thought that was such a powerful question, because I think they realized that all their ideas of the future had also been so influenced by images they had seen or movies they had watched or books they read. So how do you give shape or visualize the future? And how do you know that are really your own ideas or is inspired by other people's ideas? Here's kind of a group brainstorm around the future. And I think there was a lot of hope, and but there was also a lot of fear. I think the participants were really feeling kind of this uncertainty with Trump being in power. We also talked about what does it mean to be a movement or a collective body that is trying to create change. And so we looked at performances from the 70s. Here's Simone Forti's The Huddle, and we reenacted The Huddle at several locations in Milwaukee. Here in front of the domes, the Botanical Gardens in Milwaukee. And here practicing in an empty lot. The silver emergency blankets that make an appearance in the video 2 are a reference to the refugee crisis that was going on, is going on around the world, and inspired by photographs we saw in the media. And also inspired by Ligia Pape's The Visor performance she performed again in the 70s that we reenacted with the silver emergency blanket through the streets of Milwaukee, moving like one collective body. And here is an excerpt of the piece itself. The clip shows the scene where they're riding in the sky and they're actually writing out the manifesto that is part of the exhibition too. I forgot to actually include an image of the manifesto, but the kids wrote as part of that the 2017 iteration a manifesto for the future, which is quite inspiring. And one of the scenes where they're kind of staring into the camera, I asked them to kind of look towards the future through the camera and kind of imagine what they would see and where they would be. I loved how those portraits turned out because they're both vulnerable and self-conscious and hopeful, but also there's this kind of definitely this not knowing that is present, and as a viewer, our own projections that we project onto these young participants. This image, It's Time to Listen, was from the shoot we did in 2020 during the pandemic. Again, an election year, still too young to vote, but we talked a lot about kind of their political agency. And now, 4 years later, again, 2024, I am again going to follow up with them and work with the same group of kids to make a new addition to this piece now that they actually can vote for the first time in the presidential election, and something we couldn't predict, but it looks like Trump will be running again. That was my presentation.
Thank you so much, Kirsten. Yeah, it's great to have some more context to that project. I'll definitely be adding some notes to to how I've been speaking about the work. I have lots of questions for you, but I'm going to move. I'm going to first introduce Marie-Kristine Petiquay, who is here, as I said, as a spokesperson for Wapikoni Mobile, or I guess Wapikoni Mobile in French. She is Wapikoni's virtual creation studio manager right now. She's Atika Mek from the community of Manawan. A multidisciplinary artist herself, she has also participated in the writing, composition and recording of a song for the album Nos Forêts Chantées, in addition to performing it twice at the Présence Autochtone Festival and the Quay Encountering Indigenous Peoples in the summer of 2017. Her photographs have also been exhibited in several group shows. She is co-writer of the feature documentary The Invisible Wall from 2020, for which she received a nomination at the 36th Gemini Awards at the category of Best Screenplay Documentary Broadcast. Bravo, bravo. She also won the Francophone Development Grant awarded by the NFB as part of the Talent Lab for the Rencontre Internationale du Documentaire à Montréal, which is Montreal's documentary festival, for the production of her first feature film, which is really exciting. So yeah, I'll turn it over to Marie-Kristine to talk about Wapikoni's mandate and mission. Yeah, I'm thrilled that you're here and just to have this opportunity to hear about this organization that I've been following since its foundation in 2004. So over to you.
Thanks. I'm always shy when someone else reads my bio. Well, I don't know. I'm always like shy. But yeah, so yeah, my name is Marie-Kristine and I work as the virtual creation studios manager for Wapikoni for 3 years now. But my love story with Wapikoni started earlier than that. I directed my first film in 2005 when I was only 12 years old. So I always say I like to say that I grew up in the benevolent shadow of Wapikoni, and I am here today to talk about the organization and what we do. So I'm gonna share my screen. Okay, so Wapikoni was founded in 2003 by the Conseil de la Nation Atikamekw, the First Nations Quebec and Labrador Youth Council, and filmmaker Manon Barbeau. And Wapikoni now launched in 2004 its mobile creation studio, which travel across Quebec and Canada to offer training in audiovisual and musical creations in Indigenous communities. So I would like to present a demo video that think that we like to show too. Yeah.
Great tools for us Aboriginals to get out into the world and express our creativity.
Le Wapikoni, pour moi, c'est une voix. Je dirais que ça a allumé des étincelles.
It helped me establish myself as an artist.
Ça nous permet aussi de se faire comprendre.
On est vraiment fiers de notre culture.
Les jeunes offrent leur image, l'image qu'ils perçoivent de leur communauté.
C'est pas juste de faire des vidéos.
À travers tout ça, j'ai vu le support.
It helped so many youth to move past depression and other things.
I don't think the communities really realize what they have with Wapikoni.
It's amazing.
Il en aura donné cet espoir que nos jeunes ont tant besoin.
I want to see more of that.
So that was our little demo, and so the word Wapikoni means flower in Atikamekw language, and it is also a common first name within the nation. One of the individuals who had that name was Wapikoni Awashish, who passed away at the age of 20 in a tragic accident on May 30th in 2002. She was working on a film project with the filmmaker Manon Barbeau, so they gave her name to the organization. And each year, it's 45 communities that we visit in Canada, 32 of which are in Quebec. Among the communities visited abroad, we have been to Bolivia, Chile, Panama, Peru, Norway, Turkey, Jordania, and occupied Palestinian territories. And that's about 36 nations reached. Our services include social intervention through audio, visual, and musical creation, support and promotion of the expression of Indigenous cultures, and mobile and virtual creation studios, as well as professional and artistic development opportunities and distribution of and diffusion of the works created and creation of bridges and meeting places between nations. And as of this day, it's 1,400 short films and 900 musical creations that are part of our collection. Works of our collection has also won 220 awards and mentions, and it's 250 festivals and events that we take part in each year, and over 300,000 views on our website per year. So our mobile creation studios are the trailers that visit the communities. They last for 4 weeks, and we always send a team of 2 filmmaker mentors and 1 outreach worker. We also hire a local coordinator and an assistant filmmaker from the communities we visit. And each stopover welcomed 25 participants that create 4 to 8 films and 5 musical creations. And our trailers are equipped with an editing room, a music recording studio, a projection room, and a training, meeting, and listening area, and state-of-the-art equipment. And as for the virtual studios, they are a space for expression, creation, and improvement. They offer a personalized, flexible support adapted to the needs of each artist. Also, all formats are considered in the studio, whether they be short film, photo projects, writing scripts, also podcasts. And these virtual studios last for 6 weeks, and Indigenous artists who have already made a film, video, or any other artistic project with or without the help of Wapikoni can participate as long as they have access to the internet and have their own equipment. But recently, we also, Wapikoni has equipped itself with a few complete and easy to use filming kits made of cell phone with high performance cameras with different lenses, stabilizers, and microphones. So we can ship them to them to help them carry out their projects. And I also wanted to talk about another department in Wapikoni that's doing very important work. It's the distribution department. Distribution is super important step. It's when the films are going to come to life, are going to be seen, are going to reach the public. It is a very meticulous work, and distribution at Wapikoni is a service offered free of charge to the artists of the collective. Normally in the industry, it is a paid service, but we are able to offer a free service thanks to the income that the distribution of the films in the collection. We are a nonprofit organization, so we don't have a dedicated distribution grant. The distribution is responsible for promoting more than, what's the number again? 1,400 films from the collection. And we work with different audiences, festival, events, online platforms, TV shows, educational environments, embassies, airlines, museums, awareness workshops, and just to name a few. And our business model is set to be impact-based. So the more creators are known by different markets and audiences, the more professional opportunities they will get to continue, and the more their words will be heard, and the more they will contribute to societal debates and will bring about the transformation we want for the generations to come. Because we believe that films have the power to shape culture, raise awareness, and provoke discussions on important topics, and knowing that your work can have a lasting impact on individuals in society, inspiring conversations and driving social change, it is, well, incredibly rewarding. So that was it, my little presentation on Wapikoni. Wanted to share where you can follow us if you wanted to. Muguts.
Thank you, Marie-Kristine. I'd love to hear more actually about how you got started. When you were 12 years old, how you met Wapikoni, or yeah, I'd love to hear more about that experience of that first film.
Yeah, sure. I was 12. Well, Wapikoni was launched in 2024, and at that time they were aiming for participants between the ages of 16 and 35. So I was 11 when they first came in my community, and I went to see them and they told me I was too young. So the next year when they came back, I went to the trailer again and I was like, I really want to make a movie. So I did a little short film about my little brother who was 4 at the time, about he's a motocross rider, and he's 22 now and competing, I guess, against the best motocross riders across Canada. And I wanted to show how proud I am of my little brother, so I did a little documentary on him. But yeah, so after the filmmaker mentors told me how to use the camera, they let me borrow one, and I went around my community and filmed just to practice shots. And I came back to the trailer with those images, and they said, well, those images are too good not to use. So they had me record a voiceover, so it became like my second film, which is basically a little drive around town. Well, not a drive because I couldn't drive back then, but a walk around town, a guided visit, of my home community and how I see it and why I love it. So that was my first two films that I directed the same year in 25.
That's amazing. And now you're here today representing Wapikoni Mobile and
Yes.
about to make a feature film.
Yeah. But yeah, I like my work. I like giving that same spark that they gave me back then to the younger generation. So yeah.
Yes. And obviously you were very persistent.
Yeah, I was.
Can you talk a bit about how your practice as, a coordinator, but also for Wapikoni, but also your own personal practice, how that's related, or if you keep them very separate?
I try to keep them separate. I'm sorry, I'm just thinking about but yeah, as the virtual creation studio manager, basically my job is to I coordinate. Back then it was 4, now we're down to 3 cohorts per year. And they usually the time of the year that I usually do them is like from August to March. So my third one of the year is gonna start in a couple weeks, couple days now. And basically the virtual studio is we see it complementary with the mobile studios because the mobile well, one thing we heard from the communities was when the trailer leaves the community, it always it lives with I don't know how to say it in English right now, but like a blank.
Oh, like a gap
It lives
or
a void. Yeah,
lack?
it lives.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for. It lives a gap to be filled for the communities. So we wanted to extend our services offered throughout the year. So we also we wanted to access some communities that are not accessible by car.
Right.
Yeah, so there's some communities that you can only access by plane or by train, and obviously we cannot really put the trailer, ship the trailer by plane.
Right.
But yeah, and so each cohort I send out I call for projects and I invite people to register for it, and then with a selection committee we read out the projects and we select 6 participants per cohort, and it's always a difficult task to do because the projects are really I'd like to take them all if I could,
Right.
but yeah, we live with limited resources. Sometimes I can only take 6 at a time.
Of course, yeah. Maybe Kirsten, moving to you, social practice is such an overarching umbrella term. And of course, in your case, it intersects with documentary. How would you define social practice, and how does it intersect with your own documentary practice?
Good question. I think for first and foremost, I think more maybe about kind of the interest that I always have had in documentary and documentary making, and kind of really questions of representation, who is represented, who gets to partake in meaning making or storytelling, what stories are being told, how are they told? So those questions, I think, really that I ask myself really come from there. But I mean, obviously, documentary in itself is a social practice, so they're inextricably intertwined. I think for me, I think social practice is a difficult. It's such a big term, and especially I feel in the last 10 years, 20 years, it's blown up, and a lot falls under that umbrella. I think for me, because the social practice aspect is really in kind of the making of the video work and these kind of collaborative frameworks that I set up and we make the video work. But yeah, for me, it always also comes back to thinking about video making in itself, or the final video that's presented in itself. So there's also a lot of, I also think a lot about the final presentation and the editing and those kind of aspects. Yeah.
Maybe, I mean, this is a question really for both of you, but how do you balance, maybe we'll start with you, Kirsten, but how do you balance the needs of the group you're working with, like the children that you were working with, and aesthetic, sort of aesthetic needs or concerns that you have as an artist, or thinking about the final the exhibition or the final project, when the process in itself is so important?
For me, one thing that I like, most of my practice include a lot of building or making of props or sets too, and they really, for me, function within the video. I've never exhibited those as kind of part of the show, and that's I think a very deliberate choice, because in the end I'm not interested in kind of a discussion around the craftsmanship of the cardboard structures that are being made, or I don't want to kind of detract that from kind of some of the really serious matter that is being dealt with through those cardboard structures talked about or addressed. So that's a very clear aesthetic choice for me, that those kind of the things that are being made together live in the video, but they don't live in the exhibition space. I have never, this might change in the future, it's not a hard and fast rule, but I've never had my participants do the edit. Like, I kind of step back in as the editor of the piece, and and yeah, I guess that's where I draw a line, as like here and because there is so much openness in the process where basically anything is possible, and I guess in through the editing process is a very important part of, for me, to kind of zoom out again and see what are all these ideas, how can I connect them in a way that become also readable to an audience that were not part of the project, and how can this project be meaningful for those who didn't experience the making of it. So those are questions I always ask in relationship to aesthetic choices. Yeah, I hope that kind of answers your question.
Yeah, Marie-Kristine, what do you think? I know you were saying, for example, that sort of balance between the needs of the community that Wapikoni is visiting or working in, and the sort of the final product of the video as Wapikoni becomes more and more known as a distributor.
Yeah, well, one value that we think is really important within Wapikoni is the respect of their narrative sovereignty. So indigenous communities have often been misrepresented or underrepresented in mainstream media. So more indigenous representation allows also for more authentic portrayals of indigenous cultures and traditions and perspectives, which can help dispel the stereotypes and misconceptions. So it provides an opportunity for indigenous individuals to share their stories on their own terms. So so basically the team that we send there is really there to only provide technical training. The screenwriting of it all is it all comes from the participants. So yeah.
Sorry,
go ahead.
No, I thought it was Marie-Kristine. I thought it was so. First of all, it's such beautiful, powerful work that you're doing, but also I thought it was so important what you said about the importance of the work being shown and being seen, and I think that connects maybe also a little bit to your question. I think in the end that is also really a key part. also for the aesthetic experience exists outside just the experience of making it, but also you want to present it to a larger audience who then can have their own experience with it. And I know for the kids, well, they're not kids anymore, but young adults now, it was so important that the work was actually exhibited and seen, and other people got to kind of see what they made and what they wanted to talk about. So yeah, I think it's amazing the reach that you are creating with Wapikoni. It's really impressive.
Thank you.
To come back to what you were saying, Marie-Kristine, about narrative sovereignty. Yeah, I mean, I was thinking, documentary, the very roots of documentary come from, very Eurocentric colonialist practices, ethnographic practices, anthropological practices, where they were looking at Indigenous groups as a primitive other, inventorying, studying them, these supposed dying peoples. Can you speak more about how Wapikoni really, their project really is overturning those kinds of that kind of history, but still embracing documentary?
Yeah, let me think about it for a second.
Sure, yeah.
But yeah, I don't really know how to answer the question, but yeah, we wanted to, like you said, instead of being the ones filmed by I don't know, it just reminds me of the series of photos that Edward Curtis did.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I think, I don't know. There's a film that I like to name drop when we're talking about that. En français, in French, it's Rien sur les mocassins. I think on English, it's Nothing on the Moccasins. And because I don't know, some people are using documentary for cultural preservation. So they go see our elders and they want to document their knowledge, their to be able to preserve it for generations to come. But yeah, back then the elders were not really keen to talk to the camera if there was but they're more willing when it's an Indigenous person holding the camera. So so I think that's one of the not consequence, but I'm looking for my word. I'm sorry, I'm French speaking normally, so I'm looking for my words in English sometimes.
If you need to say it in French, I can try.
But yeah, that's one of the outcomes, the results that we see. Outcome results, that we see. So yeah, one good film. I like this movie because the director basically went to see her grandma and asked if she can film her to film the process of her showing her how to make a pair of moccasins, but the grandma just said no, like I will, but like outside of the camera. But yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but
no, but it's interesting. I think that's an interesting shift where you see this sort of almost pedagogical aspect to documentary for future generations.
Yeah.
Maybe over to you, Kirsten. Maybe I'm just looking at the time here, but I wondered if you could talk a bit about the role of play a bit more. You speak about imagination and obviously some of the questions or the issues that the youth are dealing with are everything from, racism, police brutality, uncertainty about the political future. But yet there is a feeling of, sometimes they're just really just playing when you look at the videos. Could you talk about that a bit more, and the importance of that? And if you're sort of, I mean, if the exhibition sort of asks that question, how are you letting reality in? And children are responding to reality, to what's around them, but how can they? It felt too that your project was also offering something that went beyond reality too, in a way, like a sense of dreaming or wanting to open up the world, when they're writing on the sky or things like that. So if you could talk a bit more about that and the role of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think play has always been a part of, I think it just opens up people. If you can kind of offer that for people to, even when I work with adults, I think in kind of group exercises or getting to know exercises, I bring these kind of, kind of playful, kind of getting to know you situations that are usually awkward for everybody, but there's this sense of humor to when it comes to, or a lightness that helps. But with the kids, I think that first year in 2016, so much, the first week there was a 3-week production period of the video. The first week was really all just about getting to know each other, and we were not filming at all. And so we did a lot of kind of games too, just kind of Red Rover, for example. And then while playing those games, I think even to some of the kids, but like Red Rover, when you talk about borders or immigration or crossings, all of a sudden a game becomes also something that you can interpret in a really kind of serious way. And I think, especially with young people, I try to kind of look for those moments where play also hits on something very serious. But I think it's also, especially when you are talking about these heavy topics, it's so important to have these moments of play and joy too. And I think I guess I really hope to kind of set up in my structures when we're creating something, I don't have any expectations. It can be anything. And I hope that my participants feel that there's a lot of space for them to feel that in however they want that, an experiment. And I also kind of lost my train of thought. I'm not quite sure where I'm going with that. But I think initially play is I think you just used to kind of to build trust and get to know each other. But then especially, a lot of the performative actions that are part of the video work that I do are really about embodiment and use the body as well as a way of expressing a feeling or a question or an issue. And for a lot of people that I work with, both adults and kids, that's something quite new. So there is also this kind of a lot of playfulness there in trying to get people comfortable with certain things, or just all feeling awkward trying something out for the first time. Again, kind of creates that bond that I think is really important, and again opens then up space for people to find that trust or in that shared experience, and then are more willing, or it becomes more easy for them to open up about some of these very heavy topics or personal experience that we talk about. But
go ahead.
No, but I think also that those moments of joy that are, well, especially in the Rehousing the American Dream project, are so important too, as moments within the video pieces to capture that as well.
Thank you. Maybe we'll, Kathy, I don't know if you want to come on and open it up with questions from our public.
Sure. I mean, we've had a lot of more reflections. Thanking you both just for sharing your work, and a lot of feelings and people talking about inspiring and those sorts of things. I'm just thinking, we've only had the show up for about a week, and we've had a few school groups, young school groups come through, and they've reacted much the same way I think our audience has here, of just very inspiring, hopeful. But it's been interesting hearing some of our school groups' responses of, for them to talk about social justice and how would they express themselves. And, with the class of 30, you're going to have 30 different voices responding. And so my question would be, how do you wrangle all that into when you're working with a group? Because you both work quite differently, and I know you work with teams as well. You have other people working with you, whether it's a camera person or in Wapikoni, I know you have a few people working with a group of youth. How does that come together? Like, what does your process kind of look like, and to bring all those voices that I'm sure are very active, and to come with something cohesive for both of you? That would be my question. Just, I guess, a bit of just behind the scenes of what your process looks like. I know, Kirsten, you want to jump in there?
Sure. Yeah, it's different for every project depending on the group of people that I'm working with. But for Rehousing the American Dream, yeah, it was really, it was really a big experiment the first year we started it. And since it was kind of a summer camp for them, we kind of talking about play. There was a lot of kind of camp games that we did to kind of get people to know each other. And I think of having multiple ways of expressing ideas, so that we do a lot of writing. But for example, we had half of the group were newcomers, and especially in that first year, they were not fluent in English at that point at all. So also making sure there's other ways of expressing ideas, just either through physical performance or through like that year, I really realized how important it was to actually make stuff, objects from cardboard that could tell a story or build sets together. That would go beyond kind of verbal language, but still would say a lot. So I think that part of my strategy is also, or I don't like the word strategy, but part of that is also trying to find multiple ways in which we can kind of give shape through these different ideas or stories that is beyond just speaking or writing.
Great, thank you. And same question for you, Marie-Kristine, like, how does your teamwork when you're working with a new group of youth?
Yeah, I was trying to think about it, but basically in a mobile soap opera, how we work is we usually do an open house when the trailer is installed. After the trailer has been installed, and we just wait for participants to come in the trailer and visit us if they have ideas, if they want to make films. I noticed this past season in 2023, a lot of them made more and more fictions now. But yeah, documentary is still what we do the most, but the more and more people are doing fiction now. But usually the process is we ask them what their message is and who they want to hear, who they want to send their message to. So that's how we help them with the creative process, with the script writing of the films and all. Like I said, narrative sovereignty is really important to us. So we often, but we remain still the experts. I'd like to say, like, I don't know why I did the quotes, but we remain the professionals. So instead of like giving an idea and guiding them where we want them to go, we just offer a wide range of options. So they choose from that. So so they remain like the the captains of the boats. Yeah, that's what I want to say.
Mhm. Great, thank you. And just in connection to that, we have another question. Just wondering what advice you may have for emerging filmmakers, exploring truth within their process, and building a team. For either one of you, I think. I know when I first was telling people about both your projects before the show opened, I had a lot of people who knew of you, both of you, and were, saying, oh, I'd love to do what they do. So if you have any tips for emerging artists out there who might be looking to do something, to similar projects that are community-based, working within a community. I don't know who wants to jump in first. Kirsten, shall we go back to you again?
Sure. Yeah, I think that team of course is incredibly important for me. It's I think the same way I want my participants to have agency within the project, nor do I want to the camera person and the sound person also have, that's their expertise and feel that they have room to do their thing and bring their vision to the project too. I think that's really important. For my projects, I think it's really important that my team is comfortable with not knowing and things going different. You never know what's going to happen. And you just need to be comfortable with that. If you're a super control freak, then my projects are not the right place for you to be part of it. So that's more really like in terms of camera person or sound person. But I guess if you are interested in doing kind of social practice or community-based work, I think it's really knowing for yourself why you want to do that work and why you want to work with that community, and understanding your relationship to that community, and like what does it mean if you come in as an outsider, and what kind of relationship or expectations does that set it up. And really be clear about expectations, both your own and expectations your participants or the community you might be working with has of this project that you want to do, and be very, I think, clear about that. And of course it's fluid and things can change, but I think that's really important to say that out loud. And finding, and I think that, I mentioned this also in my presentation. Initially, I thought I was going to work with adults for this video project. And I met several people and organizations, and I just didn't feel the click, the spark wasn't there. So, so I also, kind of finding your people that want to, that means also maybe, talking to a lot of people till you find that person or that group that really gets what you want to set out to do, and go from there. But I think if you're the main person, just really asking yourself, why do I want to make a project here, or why with this community, and what's my relationship to this place or this community? I think it's a very important first question to ask.
Great, thank you. Marie-Kristine, anything to add in terms of as an emerging artist?
Yeah, sure. I think collaboration is key, basically, to amplify the impact. So, like, we may work with communities directly affected by the issues that we address. Also partnering with organizations and collaborating with fellow artists to create collective projects. Basically, engaging with the community helps ensure that the work is relevant, inclusive, and representative. So yeah, I think collaboration is key. And yeah, which is basically what she just said. I'm just agreeing with you.
Well, and I also think, I know collaboration can be challenging, but I think collaboration is also so amazing because it is this kind of expansion of, it's like exercising your empathy muscle. I think like you just learn and grow, or I feel like in every project learn so much from and through collaboration. So that's, for me, that's, really powerful.
Great.
Are there any more questions, Kathy?
The one last one was just someone wanting to know about, for Kirsten in particular, the ages of the youth that you worked with. And you did mention you want to continue working with the same group. And I guess just, is it important to continue working with one group, or would you work with another group like that same age that they were?
For this group, for this particular project, I think it's important to work with the same group and to continue and to see them. I mean, it started as a one-year project and it just developed into a multi-year project. So I think the average age of when we started was kind of 11, 12, and some were 13. And then 4 years later, so then they were kind of in high school, and some in their final years of high school in 2020. And now they're all old enough to vote. And so I have stayed in touch with all of them, but I haven't filmed the past 4 years. 2020 was the last time I filmed, but because we are still in touch a lot through social media. It's not that I write them every day, but there's still this connection. And I think most importantly, I think they still feel a connection to the project itself, too. Yeah, I thought it would be an interesting moment to kind of revisit this group again and talk about kind of the project, but also what does it mean to have political agency or not, and how do they look back now on the things that we did or talked about during those 4 years. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they will vote and how they're feeling about that now, but that would be interesting. And that for me feels like a final chapter, because it does feel like, oh, how long? I mean, I could go back another 4 years now, but this feels kind of like a good kind of point to stop the project. And I think what was amazing, I do think for me, not all like multiple years, but I think it's really a privilege and really powerful when you can work with a group over a longer time, because then you really get to build this trust in a much stronger way, and you get to understand each other much better and each other's motivations and what's important. And yeah, but this I feel incredibly grateful for this particular group of young people that I've been working with, and to be able to continue the work that I have been doing with them.
Yeah, that's one aspect of your project that is very fun, that is seeing them evolve over the years. If you see the different iterations of the project, and I'm sure they're quite anxious to vote, because one of the in the manifesto there's the line, you know, all 14-year-olds should be allowed to vote. So I think they're pumped and ready. Maybe we can finish with Marie-Kristine. Do you have a project, or maybe you could tell us a bit about your first feature that you're working on? I'd love to hear that, and we can end on that note.
Yeah, it's basically my journey into seeking traditional knowledge of my nation. Because yeah, we talk about the residential schools and how they took so much from us with the residential schools, but also we don't talk as much of the younger generations. Like my mother and my father, they both had to leave their communities to pursue their studies. So for like in Quebec, there's like primary school and high school. They did their primary school in the community, but for high school, they had to leave the community and go in cities. So they were disconnected from their communities and their culture. So so there was like a gap there, because they weren't in the communities to learn about the traditional knowledge and the culture and everything. And when I talked to them both, they both regret it, but they couldn't, like, in order to gain their high school diploma, they had to leave. So we wanted to talk about that. Well, Yeah, because it's often something that is most lesser known, I would say.
Right. So leaving for another kind of education and then coming back and wanting another sort of knowledge that is linked to their
Yes,
culture.
yeah, exactly. It wasn't as bad as the residential schools. Obviously, they were not mistreated, but they were still away from home. So I wanted to talk about their experience, basically.
Well, I hope we can keep in touch. I'd love to hear more about the project as it develops, and that hopefully it'll come here. Maybe we can end there. Thank you so much for all of your presentations and for your discussions. I feel like there's so many other questions that we could ask here, but I know Kathy wants to maybe just mention a few public programs that we have and before we wrap up here.
Sure. Yes. So thank you everyone out there who was joining us today. The show basically has only been open for a week, so we have a lot more going on over the next 2 months. This is our first public program. Next month, we'll have both in-person and online public programs. On February 10th is actually one of my former students. She'll be doing a talkback tour. She's a local activist and podcaster now, and she will be talking with Zoe in person about the exhibition, so you can come in person to join that. And on February 24th, we have one of the artists in the exhibition, Yamel Lopez Zaldivar. He'll be doing an artist talk as well as hands-on printmaking. And just ongoing, we'll have a bunch of both in-person, online, art making, talking, all sorts of things in connection to the exhibition. So please just visit our website. Zoe's put that up in the chat, and you can come and join us for more events. But thank you everyone out there who was with us today. Thank you to our presenters for an awesome talk today. It was great. Really appreciate it and appreciate having your work in the gallery so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Hope to talk to you guys soon. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.